everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to try and put together like some sort of guide for Black women who are interested in dating outside of their race for the very first time, or maybe just continuing to do so. And I'm trying to think of my own experiences, and this just really made me think a lot deeper than I had intended when kind of drafting this video. And so the first thing that comes to mind for me on this guide is that you should be prioritizing the right man instead of just the white man. I get so many comments on my videos of Black women who are saying, I need a white man to be in a serious relationship. I'm looking for a white man to marry, to be in a serious relationship with. Like, I see so often, I need a white man. And, I hate that because to me, well, I don't want to say I hate that. Hear me out. I feel that the problem with that statement is that right seems to be like inherently synonymous with white. Now, don't get me wrong. There is nothing wrong with having preferences. I think that we are all human beings, all of us are entitled to our preferences. I 100% believe and support that. You all know that, for instance, I love gingers. You all know that I go up for gingers, and bonus points if they're tall and bearded. They get extra bonus points for that. Obviously, there are people who kind of fit the category or the description of ginger across all races and all genders, all people. But definitely, I think it's fair to say that there's like a certain group who tends to have those features more than others. And so I've, had a tendency to pursue those groups more than others. But I think that as we age, you have to really start thinking about, what are your wants, but like, what are your needs? Like, yes, I wanted a man who was tall, who was bearded, who had some of those like ginger features. I wanted that. But I realized that what I needed was a person who was calm, a person who's patient, a person who's understanding. I've been very open on my channel about, my struggles with mental health, my struggles with anxiety, my struggles with depression. And, after being with people who are short-tempered, who are impatient, who, lack empathy for other people, like, I realized, okay, like, yeah, I want the tall guy, but I need the kind, empathetic, patient guy. Like, that's who I need. Another reason why I really want you to focus on what's right for you and not just like whiteness for you is because, girl, they are not all the same. Like, I know that, you see these YouTube videos, you see these YouTubers, these TikTokers, etc., who have these beautiful interracial relationships, and these men are strong and handsome, and, they're providers and protectors, and they're this and they're that. First off, it is the internet. As someone who posts on the internet, I can tell you 100% that everything you see on the internet is edited, is distorted, is augmented to some degree. Another thing that I see so often is Black women saying, well, white men tend to come from two-parent households and they value family more, and tradition and values are more conservative, etc., etc. I guess, we all know that people from two-parent households turn out to be, I'm not saying like always, right? But like, I'm all saying that we know people from two-parent households who turn out to be terrors, like horrible people, and who end up being people who are not a good fit for you in a relationship. Like, yes, that can provide stability, which can help with the socialization of that individual and their relationships with others, but like, it's not everything, right? And so I would highly recommend, especially if you're like new to interracial dating, to really try and like date and interact with multiple men if possible. And hear me out, this is why I say that, because what could happen is that, you could get lucky. You could get very, very lucky, and you meet a guy and you two instantly click and he's perfect for you. And what can happen though is that you then start to think, oh, well, the reason that we click so well is because he's a white guy, and a white guy is all that I was looking for in the first place, and a white guy is all that I need. And clearly when I wasn't with a white guy, like I was doing the wrong thing, right? But like, if that happens for you, by the way, I'm happy for you. If you find your happiness, I'm happy. But if you have a diversity of interactions, you'll start to realize that, like, oh, there are some, there are some frogs in this bunch here, just like there are in the bunches over there and the bunches over there. Like, you'll get multiple experiences, which will help you to really cultivate a solid understanding of just the fact that, like, these men, they're not all the same. They're just as diverse as we are. I stand by this. I do believe this. I believe that in 2024 and beyond, as a Black woman who wants to date outside of her race, I believe that you're probably going to either have to make peace with dating apps and using dating apps, or you're going to have to make peace with either approaching a man, either approaching that white man or non-Black man, or being very overt and very direct in your interest and in expressing your interest. I know why some of you get upset over this, and I understand, I've heard the arguments. I know that, the egg, the egg never chases the sperm, traditional values, all of that. I hear you, and I'm not trying to dismiss that. I'm just trying to also present to you the case that from polls that I've conducted on my channel, to people that I have talked to articles I have read, like, in general, across all races, honestly, nowadays, in this era that we're living in general, people are interacting less. I mean, we're literally in the midst of what has been declared like a global loneliness crisis. So in general, we're engaging with one another less. And men are saying, like, they are telling us that, we're just not doing the approaching thing anymore. We don't feel comfortable doing it for whatever reason. Now, do I agree with it? No. Do I understand it? Yes. Do I agree? That's a different story. I know it sucks, but just hear me out. On top of that, as a Black woman, you have to realize, if nothing else, take it from me and read through my comments. Do that if nothing else. Like, there are just so many white men who believe that Black women are not interested in them. And of course, for many Black women, that is the case, but there are some who that's not the case. But the perception is we're not interested. So you already have, like, this one layer of resistance in terms of just the lack of approaching people. That just not happening as often anymore. Men being reluctant to do that. But also on top of that, you have this perception of, well, if I approached, she doesn't even want me anyways. So it's like a double whammy, right? And so I think that you might just have to make peace with alternatives to the ways in which maybe you have been taught. Or if not, again, I think you might have to be really, really clear. You might have to do more than you've been doing. Okay. The next part, I feel like this one is positive. I feel like the others, at least to me, they seemed less positive, but I feel like this one is just actually positive. And it's basically, take advantage of the fact that they probably know a lot less about you than you do about them, at least, like, collectively speaking. So what I mean by that is that in this country, in the United States, Black people, the Black population makes up a minority. It makes up a small percentage of the overall demographic. The whole population, we make up a very tiny percentage. And so whenever you are the minority in any situation, you're probably going to know more about the majority than the majority knows about you, right? Like, that's just how things typically are. Of course, there's nuance to this. It's going to be based on location. It's going to be based on socioeconomic factors. I recognize that. But I'm just speaking, like, generally, and just generally. You might know more about, white culture or various types of white culture than they may know about Black American culture. And I feel like, it's interesting. For some people, this is a major con, right? This idea of being with a person who doesn't really understand, who doesn't know your culture through experience, right? Feeling like they'll never fully like know you or understand you. But for me, I feel like it's actually really liberating, because if there's really no knowledge coming into this, I can just actually be myself. Like, if there are no preconceived notions or hang-ups or, cultural baggage that I have to bring with me, then I can just be me. Like, I can just be Amanda. And so a lot of times culture can provide us so much, right? It can provide us an identity, it can provide us stability, but definitely I think that there's some baggage that comes with all cultures, right? And so when you're entering into something where you're kind of stepping outside of your culture to a degree, I feel like that's the best, because it's like you can just take the best parts of your culture with you, and you can leave the rest behind. Like, you can leave the baggage behind. I mean, metaphorically, right? Like, this is metaphorically. But what I'm just saying is, like, basically, girl, like, be yourself and feel free to be yourself. All right, y'all, and this last point is about to throw everything I just said out of the window, but I think, to me personally, this is the most important thing. This should be number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And basically what I'm saying is, all of that advice, all of that relationship advice that you're getting from this person and that person and this person, throw that out the window if it does not align with who you really are and who you really want to be, based off of what you really want for your life. If it doesn't align, if it does not match, throw it out of the window. Y'all, I am sick and tired and exhausted and weary in my bones and in my spirit over the relationship advice that is on this internet, that are in these magazines, that are coming out of these people's mouths. That's why, honestly, it's hard for me sometimes with this channel, because to a large degree, I'm giving relationship advice, right? And I try to provide nuance. I try to, say like, hey, this is my experience. You do you. Like, don't blame me. But it's just hard. And it's so hard because it's never nuanced. Because the reality is, like, it can never be. Like, the advice can never really be as nuanced as it needs to be, right? And y'all, like, I'm going to tell you something. Back when I was single, year and a half, however long ago now, I spent months and months watching those freaking femininity videos, especially the ones that were geared towards Black women, because, we're just extra flawed, right? So we need like extra help. So I was watching those videos like religiously because, my self-esteem was down. I was lonely. I felt desperate. I felt like, what am I doing wrong? What can I do to fix this? And I would go on these dates and try to use the tips from those videos. And, it was just bullshit. And I'm not saying that all of it is. I'm saying the way in which I enacted it and used it and interfaced with it was just, it was so just not it for me. And, I burned out on it. Y'all, eventually, I just came to the realization that I am a woman because I'm a woman. Like, I am a woman because I am a woman. You are a woman because you are a woman. And you don't need qualifiers. You don't need this. You don't need anything outside of yourself to legitimize, to certify, to authenticate your womanhood. You are a woman because you are a woman. And once I realized that like, that was non-negotiable. That's not something that could be compromised or taken away from me. At least it can't be taken by some like external force. If I choose to let it go, that might be a different situation. But like, it is who I am. And once I recognize that, like, this is who I am. So why am I watching content to try to figure out like how to be who I am? Like, once I realized that, everything got so much better. I started thinking about, okay, what other things beyond just being a woman, like what makes Amanda the person happy? What aligns with Amanda's spirit and not anybody on the internet? Like, none of that. None of what aligns with them. What aligns with me? And did I meet my partner after that? Yeah, I did. if you do that work, does it mean that you're going to meet your partner? I don't know. I can't guarantee that to you. And the people online that do try to guarantee that to you are full of shit. And they know it. They know that what they're doing is, we want to have the guarantee that we will find someone who will love us, who will be our forever person. That's something that we so desperately, at least many of us, so desperately crave, right? And so these people profit off of that. But the reality is, there's no guarantee in life in anything. You know, I would say taxes and death, but taxes, they change all the time too, right? So the reality is that, like, there is just no guarantee. But what I can guarantee you is that if you find yourself, and recognize that it's going to be an ongoing process, right? Like, you're not, I'm looking at like one of my boots over there, like my boot is right there, and if I go pick it up, then I have my boot. You're not like that. You're not just this stationary being that is in one place. You are going to always be evolving and changing. But if you invest in yourself and you authenticate yourself, if you do find that person, which I do believe, if you don't, or like, I do believe your chances, at least, I can't guarantee it, right? But I believe your chances are going to skyrocket. And here's the thing, when you do find that person, you're going to know that they're actually loving you for you, not from or for the freaking lines and mannerisms that are being spoon-fed and force-fed to you from these miscellaneous people on the internet, including myself. You will be loved for you, and there is no better feeling than being loved for who you actually are. And please just know, to the Black women out there who are watching this, please know that who you are is perfectly fine. I'm not saying there aren't areas that you can't tweak, that you can't improve. We all have room for improvement, right? Like, all of us, always. But you are enough. You are a woman because you are a woman. And that's all it is, and that's all you need to know. And you are enough. There is no wrong way to be. And if there, I take that back. There is a wrong way to be. Inauthentic, disingenuous. Those are the wrong ways to be. You are enough as you are.